everyone. I'm Dr.J.Mahaboob, Assistant Professor of English, Sri Sarada College for Women, Autonomous Salem 60. Today we are going to discuss about a most interesting topic that is written by Uma Chakravarti, Gendering Caste through a Feminist Lens. One of her most notable works is Gendering Caste. The analysis of gendering caste through feminist lens. In Gendering Caste through feminist lens, Uma Chakravarti critiques the dominating frameworks of both caste and gender. Studies by presenting an intersectional analysis that explores how caste and gender oppression are intertwined. Chakravarti's feminist lens enables a nuanced understanding of how Dalit women's experiences of oppression are shaped by both their caste and gender. By doing so, she challenges the traditional view of caste as primarily a social and political issue and brings attention to the gendered aspects of caste-based discrimination. Also, she works to highlight the invisibility of Dalit women within both mainstream feminist movements and the discourse on caste. While mainstream feminism has been predominantly focused on upper caste women's issues, and the anti-caste movements have often overlooked the unique struggles of Dalit women. Chakravarti argues that a truly inclusive approach to both feminism and anti-caste activism must center the intersectional experience of Dalit women. Her approach is historicized and rooted in the socio-political realities of India. She draws from historical context to illustrate how caste and gender norms have shaped women's role in society, often rendering their labor invisible while simultaneously placing them at the bottom of the social hierarchy. This historical perspective helps us understand how the oppression of Dalit women is not only a product of contemporary social structures but is deeply embedded in India's caste-based past. Chakravarti's feminist perspective also introduces the idea of the feminization of caste, where the most vulnerable sections of society, often women, experience caste-based discrimination in ways that are not seen or understood by their caste, elites, or mainstream feminist movements. Through his lens, the book calls for a deeper examination of how caste impacts women's daily lives in India, showing that their experiences are complex and cannot be fully understood by simply considering gender or caste in isolation. Next, let's move on to the main key themes in Gendering Caste through a Feminist Lens by Uma Chakravarti. One of the main key themes is intersectionality of caste and gender. Yes, a central theme of Chakravarti's analysis is the intersectionality of caste and gender. She argues that the experiences of Dalit women cannot be understood by separating caste from gender. Dalit women face a unique form of oppression because they are marginalized, not just by their caste but also because of their gender. This intersectional approach uncovers the layered forms of violence and exploitation that Dalit women experience, such as sexual violence, economic exploitation, and social exclusion. The next main key theme is feminization of caste. Here, Chakravarti discusses the concept of feminization of caste, which explains how the lowest strata of society, that is Dalit women, are often the most oppressed because Dalit women bear the brunt of both caste and gender-based violence. Their marginalization is compounded by the historical subjugation of women in general and by the specific ways in which caste structures have been used to control and dominate Dalit communities. Through this lens, she emphasizes that caste is not merely an economic or social system, but one that also profoundly impacts gender relations. The next main key theme is historical context and women's role in caste society. Chakravarti here, she traces the historical roots of caste and gender-based oppression. She critiques the erasure of women's experiences from both the caste system's history and feminist scholarship. Here she argues that caste and gender have been historically intertwined in shaping the roles of women, especially Dalit women, in the family, labor markets, and public life. Dalit women's labor both in domestic spaces and in the agricultural and industrial sectors has been crucial to maintaining caste hierarchies. Yet their contributions remain undervalued and invisible. The next most important key theme is critique of mainstream feminism. Here, she critiques mainstream feminism for its failure to address the issue of caste. Most feminist movements in India have been largely upper caste in their orientation and have overlooked the needs and struggles of Dalit women. According to Chakravarti, a truly inclusive feminism must confront the intersections of caste and gender. Yes, recognizing that Dalit women face a unique set of challenges that cannot be addressed by traditional feminist paradigms alone. Next key theme is resistance and agency of Dalit women. Despite their marginalization, Dalit women have been active agents in resisting both caste and gender-based oppression. Chakravarti highlights the role of Dalit women in social movements, labor struggles, and the everyday resistance to caste-based discrimination. She emphasizes that Dalit women's resistance is not only visible in large-scale political movements but also in their everyday acts of the defiance against both caste and patriarchal structures. The final last key theme is the need for an inclusive feminism. Here she calls for an inclusive feminist framework that addresses both caste and gender discrimination. She emphasizes that feminist movements in India must must evolve to include the struggles of Dalit women, recognizing that without confronting caste-based inequalities, the feminist project cannot truly be inclusive. Also, she argues that any feminist agenda for social justice in India must take into account the intersectional oppression that Dalit women faces. Next, we are just going to move on to the theoretical frameworks in Gendering Caste through a Feminist Lens by Uma Chakravarti. We have here three theoretical frameworks. The first one is Ambedkarite perspective. Chakravarti draws significantly from the writings and teachings of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a key figure in the Dalit movement and a prominent critic of caste-based discrimination. Ambedkar's ideas on caste as a social hierarchy and his advocacy for the rights of Dalits provide a foundational framework for Chakravarti's analysis. She builds upon his critiques of Brahminical patriarchy and extends them to incorporate feminist perspective. The second theoretical framework is post-colonial feminism. It's the most important framework because Chakravarti's work also intersects with post-colonial feminist theory, which examines how colonial histories and legacies continue to shape gender and caste relations in contemporary India. She critiques the ways in which colonialism reinforced the existing hierarchies while also recognizing the agency of marginalized women in resisting these structures. The final last critical feminist pedagogy is theoretical framework is critical feminist pedagogy. In her approach to historical analysis, Chakravarti engages with critical feminist pedagogy, which emphasizes learning as a transformative and emancipatory process. By uncovering marginalized histories and centering the voices of Dalit women, she challenges dominant narratives and invites readers to critically interrogate their own positions within hierarchical systems. Next, we are going to discuss about arguments and contributions in gendering and caste. Yes, under this, we have three segments, that is challenging Brahmanical patriarchy, re-entering Dalit women's voices and policy implications. Under challenging Brahmanical patriarchy, she says the key contribution is her critique of Brahmanical patriarchy, which she argues is central to the perpetuation of caste-based discrimination and gender inequalities. By examining historical texts and social practices, she exposes how Brahmanical norms have historically excluded and marginalized Dalit women, reinforcing their subordinate position in society. The next one is recentering Dalit women's voices. Another significant contribution is her effort to recenter the voices and experiences of Dalit women within feminist discourse. Here, she argues that mainstream feminism in India has often been dominated by upper caste perspectives, neglecting the specific challenges faced by Dalit women. Through her research, she highlights the resilience and agency of Dalit women, challenging the stereotypes and offering a more nuanced understanding of their struggles and contributions. The last is policy implications. Her work also has implications for policy and activism. By documenting historical injustice and contemporary inequalities, she calls for policies that address both caste and gender disparities. She advocates for affirmative action, measures that prioritize the rights and welfare of Dalit women, recognizing their unique position at the intersection of multiple forms of oppression. Yes. Here, we can conclude that Uma Chakravarti's Gendering Caste through a Feminist Lens is a critical contribution to both feminist and Dalit scholarship. It challenges the traditional frameworks for understanding caste and gender in isolation and instead proposes an intersectional approach that considers how these two systems of oppression are deeply intertwined. Her analysis of the feminization of caste highlights the unique ways in which Dalit women experience of both gender and caste-based violence and exploitation. The work pushes for a more inclusive feminism that recognizes and addresses the specific forms of oppression that Dalit women face, urging feminist movements to engage with caste-based discrimination. By centering Dalit women's experiences, Chakravarti's work provides a more comprehensive understanding of social injustice in India, one that acknowledges the complexities of caste, gender, and resistance. Yes, so far we have discussed a small introduction about the author Uma Chakravarti and the analysis of the text Gendering Caste through a Feminist Lens and the major key themes in Gendering Caste through Feminist Lens. Under themes we have 4 key themes. Other than that, we discussed about the theoretical frameworks. Next is arguments and contributions, and finally we concluded with critics and controversy. We are moving on to the question and answer sessions, that is quiz. The first question is, Uma Chakravarti is most famous for her work on which of the following themes? Second question, what is the title of one of Uma Chakravarti's most notable works? Third question is, Uma Chakravarti is a prominent advocate for which type of social justice? economic reform, environmental activism, anti-caste and gender equality, and political freedom. Fourth question: what concept does Uma Chakravarti introduce to explain how Dalit women face dual oppression? Feminization of caste, intersectionality of gender and caste, empowerment through caste reform, gender hierarchies and caste systems. Fifth question: how does Chakravarti critique mainstream feminist movements in India? First one, they are too focused on caste-based issues. They fail to include the struggles of Dalit women. They prioritize the issues of urban women only. They are not concerned with economic equality. The last question: what does Chakravarti mean by the feminization of caste? The domination of women by upper caste men, the increased power of Dalit women in the caste hierarchy, the disproportionate oppression of Dalit women within caste systems, the exclusion of women from caste discrimination. I hope each and every one of you have guessed the answers, and you very well discussed all these questions in the analysis and key framework, theoretical frameworks and everything. So everyone know the answers, I guess so. Please comment your answers in the please give your answers in the comment sections. Thank you. Next, also here I have attached the reference here. In this, I have given you author introduction, that is Uma Chakravarti's biography details and analysis of the text Gendering Caste through a Feminist Lens, and then the major key themes and the frameworks and everything. And I would like to thank everyone for your patience listening. I have attached this reference in the description. Please, in the description, kindly just go for, you can just refer everything. Thank you so much for your patience listening. Thank you all.